I have entitled my homily this evening, Like a Mother, God Never Forgets. You know, I saw a Facebook posting the other day that moved me to the core. It came with a photo of a chubby little boy. The post said, a child who loses his parents is called an orphan. A person who loses a spouse is called a widow or a widower. What do you call a parent who loses a child? Napaisip ako. And he answered it himself. He said, there is no word for it because there is no word to express the pain that a parent feels about losing his own child. Because normally, it is the children who bury their parents, not parents who bury their children. And he ends with a remark about the boy in the photo. He said, I can't believe that it's been 8 years since we lost you. It still feels like it was just yesterday. And that brought tears in my eyes. Today's first reading is a good answer to people who feel that they have been forsaken by God. It is that particular line from Isaiah chapter 49 that inspired the great Jesuit musician-composer, Father Manuling Francisco, to compose the famous song, Hindi Kita Malilimutan. Believe it or not, Father Manuling was just 15 years old when he composed that song. He said in a concert that he never thought that that song would one day become known as a song for funerals. It was not composed for that purpose. Father Manuling really just translated the lines from our first reading today, particularly verse 15. Malilimutan ba ng ina ang anak na galing sa kanya? Sanggol sa kanyang sinapupunan, paano niya matatalikdan? Ngunit kahit na malimutan ng ina ang anak na galing sa kanya, hindi kita malilimutan. Kailanman ay di pababayaan. In English, can a mother forget her baby? Or be without tenderness for the child within her womb? Yet, even should she forget, I will never forget you. Wow. Who will not weep with lines like these? The prophet pronounced these words as an oracle of hope and consolation to the Jews who thought that Yahweh, their God, had forsaken them. In their dark moments of exile, after their country was occupied by foreigners, and Jerusalem, their capital city, was reduced to a pile of ruins, after their temple and their houses were burned down, and the few survivors among them were taken as slaves to Babylon, they really thought that their God had totally forsaken them. That maybe Yahweh, their God, had given up on them because of their stubbornness of heart. That maybe God had decided to just allow them to perish, and that He had totally forgotten them. These are the very words that Isaiah says the people of Zion were saying. The Lord has forsaken me. My Lord has forgotten me. Parang nagtatampo. And so he pronounces his oracle of consolation. One of the few lines in the Bible where God is described as a woman. Can a mother forget her infant and be without tenderness for the child within her womb? That is a rhetorical question that begs the issue, because he presupposes that even if it is most unusual to hear of mothers forgetting their children, there are actually some mothers who forget their children, some earthly mothers. And so the prophet, as it were, is saying, however unusual it might be, even if a mother may forget, God says, I will never forget you. Hi. We need to hear this consoling piece of good news once in a while, especially in moments like this pandemic, when some people feel so desperate, so helpless, and so forsaken. Times when we feel like lamenting about the absence of God, or about the remoteness of God. We heard this lament just a few days ago. If you have been listening to our readings carefully, we read it a few days ago. Psalm 137 in the responsorial psalm. By the rivers of Babylon, we sat down and wept when we remembered Zion. The psalmist says they could not even get themselves to sing one of the songs of Zion when their captors asked them to play some music for them. Instead of singing, he says, they hung up their harps. Imagine that. Para hindi sila kumanta, isinabit nila ang mga gitara nila sa mga punong kahoy, on the trees that were growing in Babylon. The psalm has a second part, which in the light of our first reading today, can be read differently. Try reading it as a reply from God to His people, from the mother to her child who thinks that he has been forsaken or forgotten. If I forget you, Jerusalem, may my right hand wither. I know it does not sound proper, putting it in the mouth of God, because it makes God really sound so human. Para siyang sumusumpa. It's like he is swearing, mamatay man ako. But that precisely makes it sound more tender and more intimate. Can you imagine God saying to his people, "May my tongue stick to my palate if I remember you not, if I place you not ahead of my joy"? How can you not weep with lines like these?